If you do a Google search for culture shock stages, you'll find lots of articles talking about 4 of them: the honeymoon stage, the frustration stage, the adjustment stage, and then the acceptance stage. But looking back on my personal experience, I've identified my own 5 emotional stages that I went through when I moved to Europe. Hey everyone, I'm Donna and you're watching Wanted Adventure Living Abroad. So in line with what the articles call the honeymoon stage, when I first arrived in Prague, which is where I lived for a year before moving to Munich, I experienced several weeks of just all out and out total excitement. I think you figured out by now that I'm a pretty energetic, excitable person, and so perhaps you can imagine how just bubbling with joy I was to be running around Prague, the city I had dreamed of visiting my whole life. Everything was so new and fresh and different. There was so much to explore, and I just spent hours getting lost downtown, wandering around the cobblestone streets and gazing up in awe at all the breathtaking buildings. At this point, the language was like music to my ears. The food was so interesting, the coffee the best I'd ever had, the culture fascinating. I was on cloud 9 every single second. During this stage, I studied the Czech language almost every single day and was very eager to settle down and stay forever. But what happens after a high? You've got to come down eventually. And when you do, it's not always so pleasant. So again, pretty much in line with what other people call the frustration stage, I next experienced what I like to call the total confusion stage. And during this period, I basically had no idea what was going on around me. My Czech had improved, but not enough to actually understand what people were trying to say to me. And I had moved into a country that, of course, already had a structure of societal norms and customs and ways of doing things, and I didn't know about or understand most of them. I felt like I had to relearn pretty much everything. Things that seemed like they should be simple, like buying a month ticket for the metro, or using a coupon at a grocery store, or just riding up an escalator. They all turned into learning experiences, and often a bit of a frustrating learning experience at that. I was left feeling in this constant state of confusion. I wanted to do things right, but I didn't yet understand what was considered the right and wrong way of doing things in that culture. I never knew when another mistake was just around the corner. For example, as far as the escalator riding went, I had to learn that you stand still on the right and people move along on the left. I didn't know that rule before moving to Prague, and I only learned it after someone got annoyed with me for doing it wrong. Which might not sound like a big deal, but when those kinds of things are happening to you all day long for several weeks or even several months, it can really start to add up. And I think for me, the worst thing was that I couldn't anticipate when or under what circumstances I would do a wrong thing. For example, I had a coupon for something at the grocery store, but when I went to use it, for some reason I was told no. But my understanding of how things worked in Prague and the language wasn't far enough along for me to actually understand why I couldn't use the coupon. I was just left feeling confused and alone, and paying full price for my can of beans. During this stage, I did keep studying and practicing Czech, but that had also reached a pretty tricky point and was getting frustrating. It was no longer just about vocabulary, but rather complicated grammatical structures and these concepts that just had no equivalent in English. So at this point, I still couldn't understand signs. I didn't know why things were the way they were. I couldn't read the notice on the front door of my building that said that on Wednesday from 9 a.m. to noon, the water would be turned off, so I was in the shower when it happened. Yeah, basically it was several months of living in a fog of total confusion. Then I guess that stage sort of caused and blended into the next stage, which was missing home from the bottom of my heart. In stage 3, oh, how I missed my home. I was starting to understand how things worked in Prague. The fog of confusion had kind of lifted. My Czech wasn't so terrible anymore. I could more or less have a back and forth conversation with the person at the grocery store if I really needed to. But during this stage, everything was just better and rosier back home. Oh, how I missed the food, and oh, how the shopping was better, and oh, the people were friendlier, and the sun was shinier. Okay, I'm from South Florida, and this was now the dead middle of winter in Prague. So yeah, I guess with that one, I did have a point. The sun was shinier in Florida. In the back of my head, way back there, of course, I remembered why I had moved to Prague, why I wanted to live in Europe rather than in the US. And it was that distant knowledge of why I'd moved that kept me from packing up and moving back. But it was not enough to stop me from wallowing and complaining about the missing. So yeah, during this phase, I was so crazy with missing that I actually asked my mom to ship me a container of like 12 cartons of chocolate-flavored soy milk that I missed that I couldn't find in Prague. And you know what my mom did? What she said? She said no. She shipped me lots of other stuff, don't get me wrong. Clothing, peanut butter, some vanilla extract even, but she drew the line at 12 cartons of soy milk. And what she said actually helped get me through this phase and into the next one. She said, Donna, you moved to Europe. I can't ship you America. If you want America, you have to come back. But you can't have America in Europe. And she was right, which brought me to emotional stage number 4. This place is so much better than back home stage. In this stage, I did a full 180 from the stage before it, going from everything is better in the US to everything is better in Prague specifically and in Europe in general. I tried my best to watch what I said to my friends back home and not be too annoying, but I'm sorry, guys. I'm guessing that there might have been some times where I was driving you a little bit crazy, just going on and on about this is how they do it over here. And isn't it just so progressive how Europe does it? Just amazing. During this stage, I'm guessing that I would have gone full speed ahead, studying Czech again, if I hadn't already met Mr. German Man and already decided to move to Germany. So instead, I stopped learning Czech and dove headfirst into the German language, trying to learn as much German as I could before moving to Munich. And then I moved to Munich, which kind of set me back a few stages actually, which I didn't expect at all. I mean, it was just 4 hours away from Prague. My college had been 5 hours away from my home in Florida, so I really didn't expect to encounter culture shock all over again. I thought I was over that. But no, I once again went through each stage before finally making it to emotional stage 5, leveling out. In this stage, as the name implies, I was finally able to level out and see that both the US and now Germany were my homes. Both of them. Equally. And I was able to see that both places had wonderful things about them and both places had things that I would love to change. And that's okay. In this stage, I accepted that I didn't have to pick which place I liked more. I could just like both, just differently. And I think this is still the stage I'm in now. When I'm here in Germany, of course, there are some things that I miss from my home in the US, like Tex-Mex, free refills, and General Tso's chicken. And my friends and family, of course. But when I'm in the US, just the same, I miss things from my home here in Germany. Perhaps in the future there will be another emotional stage, but for now, that's where I am. Okay, so that got a little deep today, and now I'm asking for you to get deep with me. So my question for you is, what kind of feelings or emotions have you experienced while abroad, whether to live or study or just for a long vacation? Please let me know in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe and hit that like button. And also, for more fun stuff, you can check me out over here on my Twitter and my Facebook page. Until next time, auf Wiedersehen! Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. Ah, words of wisdom. Thank you, Mommy. You never want to pay full price for your can of beans.